Welcome to One Insight. My name is Litvin. I grew up in London and I now live in LA. And this is a podcast for extraordinary top performers. You see, I've coached some of the most successful and talented people on the planet. I see what most people cannot see, and I dare to say what most people wouldn't dare to say. And what I know about success is that on the other side of it, it can actually be lonely. You can feel like more of an imposter the more successful you become. And when you're the most interesting person in the room, you're actually in the wrong room. I coach around insight. Life looks one way, something happens, the world looks different, and your entire world changes. It can happen in an instant. And this podcast is called One Insight because a single insight can change everything. I love working with really high performers because if you've got a track record of success behind you, half the job is already done. Everything you're doing next that feels scary or intimidating, what we tend to forget as high performers is that everything behind us still counts. And if we've had this track record of success, and one of the only ways to have that track record of success is to handle failures along the way, then whatever else is coming that looks intimidating right now, over here, as a coach, I know it's on its way. I don't know what it looks like compared to how you envisage it right now. I don't know the time frame in which it will happen, but I know it's on its way. So it's fun for me today to have three guys on the call where we're going to dive into exploring what do you want? And then seeing how I can support them in that journey. So, Alex, great to see you. Great to be talking with you. What do you want? One of my most simple coaching question ever, but very powerful one. Or even, what do you want to create?
It is such a great question. It is so simple and it's so real. What I want to create is I'm right on the cusp where I'm about to leave my corporate gig, or I'm so close to leaving it, and there's that scariness of leaving it, right? And being at your last intensive, you said something that really stuck with me, where you said, let's not look at a timeline, let's look at a number, let's look at a financial number, and let's put that together, and let's alleviate some of the stress of taking that plunge. So the short version of it is to go full-time coach. And I'm so close, and I'm making such great with my clients. What is being created with my clients feels so good and so right, and things are just moving in such a nice little direction. Now it's just really, I envision that day I walk in to see my supervisor, and I've got what I'm wearing, and I'm like, well, thank you very much, but I'll be taking my talents elsewhere. And if you would like to have a conversation in the future about what you like to create, let's go in that direction. So that's where I'm at. I'm so close, but it feels it's like there's that gap right there of that of walking in and then just going full-time coach and feeling really good about it.
Okay, thank you for sharing. I'm always in awe of people who leave a career very consciously. I was fired almost 15 years ago from a job. I'm very grateful now. I'm not sure I would have had the courage to move into a different career on my own. And I haven't heard you yet say what you want coaching on. And one of the mistakes coaches make is they often jump in too fast. Someone shares what they're up to, and we jump in on, let me help you with that. I'm not sure what you need help with right now. I'm not sure how I can coach you.
That is what I need coaching on. Gosh, I feel like all I've been doing is coaching, right? With, in conversations, but nothing's really been directed towards me. And so much of my previous, when I have had coaches, my coaching's all been on who I am being, right? And being the man I want to be. And I haven't set, this is what it is. I think this is what it is. I've worked on so focused on me as a person and how I want to be, and emulating that in all aspects of my life. And my life is has just increased exponentially on who I am and how I feel. But maybe it's that blueprint of how I actually coaching on how I actually create what that looks like. Does that make sense? Like once I actually step into like how I create at my day, where I'm no longer working for taking a paycheck, but now I'm working full-time coach, and then it's all this creating of clients. Does that narrow it down, Rich?
Well, let's find out. There's some things I'm hearing. First thing is, I heard you talking about taking the plunge. And it's important to listen to the metaphors which people create their world, because metaphors can feel really real. I've just come back from a trip on a houseboat in Lake Powell. And I took my wife and my kids, and we traveled in this boat around the lake. And there were times when we camped overnight, and we would swim out to these different rocks and islands. And there was one moment where two of my friends who were with us, we had another family with us, husband and wife both jumped off this big rock. So I thought, I've got to do that too, right? And I'm standing on this rock and I'm looking down at the water, and I know they've done it, so it's safe, it's fine. I can't make my body move. I'm terrified. Here, I can do it. Here, I want to do it because my little boys are watching me. They're 5 and 7. Like, they're going to be proud of me. I'm going to be proud of me. I cannot physically make my body take the plunge. I eventually moved down a little bit lower, and I did. It was still scary, and I did it. And I was quite proud of myself. If I'm honest, I really did it for them rather than for me, to show them that, you can do things that scare you. Because if it was me, it's like, I do other things that scare me. I'm okay with not jumping off rocks. But I wanted them to see that, my little boys. Sometimes if we have a big enough reason to do something, we can do it. People have done extraordinary things for a big enough reason throughout human history. So you might want to look at changing that metaphor, because I don't think there's no plunge here. You've got clients already. You've been coaching already. There's going to be a simple shift. There may be one day when you have a conversation with somebody and you say, hey, no longer time for me. Hey, they might say it before you do. You might get called in one day. It's what happened to me. Who knows how it's going to happen? There's no plunge. That's the first piece I hear. It makes it a lot simpler. Oh, there's a shift. I can handle a shift.
Yeah. It's like you mentioned the plunge, and when it comes to scary things physically, like for example, like going out for a surf, or it's head high plus, that isn't, I feel good. There's none of that. I've been in a corporate setting, and I'm so used to getting that paycheck. And there's that, and I'm incrementally making that shift, and just doing I don't want to call it work because it doesn't feel like work, right? It's just having great conversations, and from those conversations,
let me catch something in the middle of that.
Yeah.
There's a fear I just heard in the middle of that. I'm so used to getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
So you've done things, and you do things that would scare most people. You're a surfer. You know how to be in the water. I can swim okay in a swimming pool. The ocean scares me. I've also coached former special forces operatives. I coached earlier today a man who's helped to rehabilitate some of the world's most violent criminal offenders. And each of them has a fear. Whilst that thing doesn't scare them, there's something else that doesn't scare me, and vice versa. So it's okay, I get it. It's scary to know that I've had a paycheck all these years. I mean, let's be honest, there are people at the place where you work who don't work very hard, barely show up, still get a paycheck every week or every month. You work hard, it's who you are, and you get a paycheck, and it's going to stop at some point. And that can feel scary, I get it.
Yeah.
And there will be a moment, it happens to all of us when we transition from one career, especially in some kind of corporate setting, organization, or we're getting a check every month. There'll be a moment when your bank account, for the first time in your life, instead of going up on a regular basis, will start going down. You'll be in what's called the J curve of business. It's where you go in this dip underneath this line it's an energy. There's a price you have to pay energetically. Money, time, energy, commitment, focus. Are you willing to pay that price? If you are, it's a J curve, it goes up. We all have to go through it. There's no time frame on how long it can take. It can be shorter for some people, longer for others, but there'll be this dip in energy. Have you built up the resources behind you to support you? Do you have money in savings? Do you have income that comes in in a different way? Are you rested? Do you take care of your health, your body, your mind, your spirit?
Yeah, I'm checking off the boxes as you speak, and it's yes, yes, yes on all of it. Yeah, so I'm so close. It's so close, and it feels really good. And like we just said, scary, but scary is good. You know, scary doesn't have to be bad.
Well, let me put it this way: you can do scary.
Yeah.
You can do scary. And if it's too scary, you can do what I did. Come down a little bit till it's not quite so scary. I call it leaning into our edge. I'm not about going so far past your edge that you're scared shitless. Lean into your edge. And it was too scary for me to jump off that rock. If someone had pushed me, I would have been fine. But I didn't need that in that moment. I came down and then I jumped. And I felt really proud of myself. I'll come back to you in a bit because you talked about who the man you want to be and all the work you've done on being and how you want to create your day. And there's some distinctions I'll share with you around that.
Okay.
And let me jump in with some of the other guys on the conversation.
Thank you.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, Rich.
Hey. So how shall we play today? It could riff off from anything I was working with Alex on. It could be something completely different.
Well, I'm in it. You know, I'm already sort of all the way in. I think one thing, just wanted to acknowledge your taking the pressure off early. I realized that all day I was wanting to be a really good coachee, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to get coached on. And then I realized I could just say that and show up. So thanks for that.
Nice. So permission for both of us to screw up, to not get it right. No need to prove anything to one another right now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let me turn this into a question. What would make this a powerful conversation right now in this moment?
Yeah, what I'm grappling with right now is having it all. You know, I am in a lot of different projects, and what I notice, and they're all really aligned with who I am and what I'm committed to, my values. And I notice, though, that I'm struggling with the balance of them and this tendency to go all in really hard, you know, and I actually feel very alive when I do that. And then something will happen at some point where I either get to, oh, I've arrived and now I can like take my foot off the gas, and then everything sort of like, or I need to rest, or I deserve to rest. And then the J curve, you know, the things sort of start falling apart. And it's this cycle, this back and forth. And with all of that, one thing that's missing is that I haven't yet created for myself a very consistent and relatively easy referral process. My business is also all referrals. I work as a full-time coach and consultant.
Okay, I'm going to slow you down. Let me slow you down for a second.
Yeah.
Because I think even now I'm getting a sense of your world, because you shared something with me and then you jumped into the next thing, and it's like, this is all in, this is how you go, right? There's so many different things. So I need to take a breath. I could feel my chest getting tight, and I wasn't really breathing in that moment. And it was tempting to just keep listening because I can help you with the first one, I can help you with the second one. And it's, this must be Aaron's world where there's so much going on. And when you commit to something, you go all in, and you have a desire to do lots of things. So you're all in over here, and you're all in over here, and you're all in over here. And it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
In the past, I read every book on time management under the sun. I used to be fascinated by studying time management, read David Allen, all these different things, Stephen Covey in the early days. And I realized what happened if I got a client who was like you, who wanted help on time management, I would help them. I've got all the resources you need, loads of ideas and things. And they'd come back, they feel great. They come back a few months later, and what happens if you give someone who's a high performer, who likes to do a lot, a tool to help them balance out their life, they come back with more stuff on their plate because now they know how to do more. And it's exhausting, and it never ends. So here's how I'm going to play with you. I think this is what's coming to me. I'm reading right now what you wrote to me. You did some extraordinary things before you became a coach. You led what you called 2 winning coalitions in Detroit. You helped save families from foreclosure and eviction, and you set a new precedent in how you did that. You had built a 3rd coalition which set a national precedent around the power of community to direct public resources. And this was what you call the first ever community benefits agreement ordinance in the world. And then before that, you were a policy director for a social and racial justice organization. I love that. I love the difference you've been making in the world. That's powerful. And here's the thing. As a man who knows the importance of making a difference, saving people from foreclosure and eviction, really making such a difference to people's lives forever and their children, that by you allowing yourself to be taken on all these projects and being what you call all in on all of them, means you're not all in on any of them.
I'm clear about that.
Yeah. Less is more. Where could you be focused that would allow you some space? So I have, it's on my side of my desk, so I'm going to stand up and get it. This is a notebook that I keep, and I recommend to people who have all these different creative ideas. It's my ideas book. It literally says ideas on a leather-bound notebook. It means I can have a sense of relief. I'm not letting go of this thing forever. It's just a no for now. There's real power in hell yes or hell no. And there's literally no such thing as hell maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. So 2 things come up. One, just a point of clarification in case folks that I know hear this. One of the campaigns you mentioned, I was just a part of that coalition to set the new precedent for community directing resources for the CBO. So I just want to be clear.
I acknowledge you for owning that.
Claiming credit for that whole campaign.
I acknowledge you for owning that. My only request would be you take the word just out of that sentence. You weren't just a part of that. You were a part of that.
I was a part of that.
And
yes.
Great.
Got it. Yeah. And so the thing that I see that's consistent, slowing down, is I've known that I wanted to be a coach for 8 years. And I started coaching probably 7 years ago, always on the side until a year and a half ago when I left that work as a policy director to coach full time. And I know that, like you've written about, I'm definitely one of those people who has the incessant imposter syndrome. And many of the projects that I take on, I know in the background, the rationale is if I can successfully complete this project, then I will be able to have what I really want, which is a successful coaching business.
Is there a question behind that?
Maybe, yeah. So to go back to the having it all piece, I know that the people that I work with transform their lives and they transform their communities. And the people that I work with are also people who are really up to big things in the world. I only work with people who are up to stuff in the world. That's the only client that interests me, and it's a joy and a privilege to work with the people I work with. I'm constantly plagued by this question of what is enough and what is my responsibility and obligation as a person in the world at this particular moment in time. And particularly lately, I don't know how to strike that balance. And what I do know is that what in my mind, merely having a coaching business feels like I call that not enough for what feels like I owe the world, for my space here.
So let me pause you for a second. I'm going to talk to the other two as if you're not here. So, guys, what's interesting about what Aaron's just said is that I'm not really sure where to go with him as a coach right now. There are lots of different ways I could go. I get he's a man who's done extraordinary things in the past, been part of teams that have done extraordinary things. I also get that he loves working with people just like himself who have a big mission ahead of them. And because I'm not sure of where to go, it doesn't matter what I say next. One of the things that I enjoy about working with a group in the way that I'm doing right now is I can literally use you as a coaching tool. By chatting to you guys, allow him time to sink in to find out what he really wants. And I can also speak to what's going on over here that I don't see even an issue. And then I'll come back to him and see what happens. So Aaron, I don't know if you know this, but I was just talking about you. So what have you got? Where are you in this moment, Aaron?
Well, I feel just like a welling up. There's a lot in that, for me. Sadness.
Where do you feel the sadness most strongly?
Right now, it's just like in my face. Mostly in my face. Welling up of tears, resisting that.
Well, I mean, if you're open, let the tears come. For me, tears are just a sign of a release of emotion. And there's a sense of freedom on the other side of that. So it's okay. I get that we happen to be recording right now and maybe a bit uncomfortableness about that, but it's okay with me if it's okay with you. And it doesn't mean you have to cry on demand, but I get it. You're feeling a lot right now. So I'm going to keep you out of your thinking because I think you're going to go into your head if we talk about this anymore. Let yourself just feel what you're feeling for a minute while I talk to Kyle, and then we'll come back. All right. Hey, Kyle.
Hi.
Hey. I have a request of you, Kyle. It's a secret request. I won't let anybody else hear this. My secret request is you are not allowed to tell me how young you are in anything we talk about today.
Okay.
Okay. How can I support you?
So something I've been thinking about, and really what I want help from today, and I was thinking about this as you were talking to the other two gentlemen today, is really, I think what it comes down to is permission to charge what I'm worth and really the value I bring to clients. And then as I was coaching myself in the head is really to figure out what the value is that I'm delivering to clients and then to figure out how to charge what I'm worth. And I think that's the challenge, is figuring out what is the price tag for the value I'm delivering to people.
Yeah. Love it. I love this question. And I'm going to spend the next few moments really messing with your thinking if I have your permission.
Good, absolutely. That's what I need.
So imagine we're in a restaurant and some of the waiters come up and need some support. Hey, Kyle and Rich, we really want permission to charge what we're worth. When people say, we look at the menu, we have low self-esteem today. How can we ask them to pay $900 for this bottle of champagne or $73 for this steak? And that when we watch that waiter, and the waiter, when the person comes into the restaurant, says, look, just have the hamburger because I'm feeling a bit low today in my energy and my self-esteem, and I don't feel really worth it. We'd laugh, right? It doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. You walk into a restaurant and you have choice. You can take the hamburger for $20, the steak for $50, or a bottle of champagne for hundreds of dollars. In fact, there's a restaurant I go to in Hawaii sometimes that has $1,000 hamburger on the menu. And I asked the guy in the restaurant, does anyone ever buy this? He said about 4 times over the last 10 years. As a coach, we get caught up when we transition into this career of charging what we're worth. So this is how it usually goes. Someone becomes a coach and they start to charge a little bit of money because if they've come into coach, they usually have a passion for coaching. So this thing called coaching is amazing. I can charge for this thing called coaching. They don't charge very much. They charge by the hour. They feel okay. And there comes a moment, if they're any good, they start to get frustrated because now they start to get clients. They start to do well and they want to charge more. And they go into this thing about, what am I worth? How can I charge what I'm worth? What's the price tag for my value? Kyle, I have one-on-one clients who pay $100,000 a year. Do you want to know why I charge $100,000 a year?
I think there's a few different things. I think one of it's accountability. My undergrad was health education and counseling, and all the therapists who were professors talked about that. Part of the reason people pay for therapy is that accountability.
It's not one of the reasons I charge that money. Okay. In fact, if I had a client once he just wrote me a check. It was a big check. And he said, by the way, I noticed with a previous coach, I would always start the sessions by having a chat, and then half an hour would go by and we missed most of the coaching session. Can you hold me accountable for not doing that in sessions? I said, no. I said, I'm not doing that. I said, if you want to be invested in this coaching, you get clear. Go and chat to your friends before the session. Okay. Show up powerfully. I'm not an accountability coach. Some people might be, but that's not one of the reasons I charge that amount of money. Okay. I'll give you the shortcut. I charge that amount of money because I made up that amount of money one day. Okay. Do you want to know why I don't charge $300,000? It's because I haven't yet been bold enough to say it's $300,000 to work with me. We make up these numbers. Now, people do show up more powerfully when they're more invested. Mm-hmm. That's true. I mean, you look how much care someone takes of their Bentley or their Rolls Royce compared to a Honda. They take more care of it. They're more invested. Not everyone. Some people love their Hondas and take care of their Hondas. In the car market, there's a range of different cars. You get to choose. I'm not so much of a car person. I've got a nice Ford. It's the top of the range for what it is. So it feels nice to drive, but I don't spend a lot of money on cars. I spend my money on coaching and personal growth and travel. That's where I like to spend my money and my kids' education. But that tells you what my choices are, what I want to invest in. We get to make up our numbers. They have nothing to do with our worth or our value. Look, if you're not very good at what you do, you could say a big number a couple of times. You're not going to get many clients after that. I have no doubt that you are great at what you do. You've worked with, where was my list in front of me? People who've worked with you, C-suite executives, have got jobs at Facebook, LinkedIn, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, many of the Fortune 100 and 500 companies. Like I know you've got this track record. You're good at what you do. Yeah. You want to transition out from being a career coach where they work with this small package or a certain number of hours to say, hey, if I can do this to get you an amazing career, how about how you create an amazing life, or an amazing business, or an amazing relationship? Mm-hmm. And you just need to say that. And some of them will say, okay, how much does it cost? And then you say a number. I spent 11 months, so I don't know, maybe 2007, I was beginning to say my numbers out loud as a coach. And I picked this number, $20,000 a year. I just get this insight, I want to be charging $20,000 a year. It took 11 months of saying that number out loud. Until by the end of 11 months, it was on my phone number. How much you charge? $20,000 a year. It rolled off my tongue like my phone number. And this one woman looked me in the eyes and said, oh, great. How do I pay you? And on the inside, I was like, oh my God. She said yes. Luckily, I had the presence of mind on the outside to say, write me a check. And she was my first $20,000 client. Let go of the story about worth and value. There's a beautiful video on YouTube where a man goes into a parking lot and he goes to the parking lot attendant with his ticket and says, I want to get validated. And the parking attendant looks him in the eyes and says, you're a strong, confident, handsome man who's making a difference in the world. And then there's this line of people who begin to go up for validation. What are you worth, Kyle? You're worth everything and nothing. You're worth everything. It's priceless. People spend time with you. Already you see the impact it has on their lives. So if you're listening along at home, what you can't tell is that there's, in the 3 milliseconds between my voice now and the moment earlier, there's actually been over a week's break because I had a power cut in my house halfway through that first episode and first recording. And this is the first time I managed to get back on, but we wanted to get back on and go deeper. And it's kind of fun to actually have given each of you guys a week away so we can see what happens now. And I asked you briefly before we got on, so I can dive straight in, what will be really valuable in this conversation today. So Kyle, one of the things you said you wanted to talk about was pricing. And I can play with that very quickly. But beneath that, you said, actually, there's something really interesting. It's what I would call a quality problem. You know, you keep achieving the goals you set for yourself. Mm-hmm. And so there's this question that is behind that, which is almost a philosophical one, but then what? And I love that you're catching it now because most of us don't. Most of us, for most of our lives, go on this journey seeking that thing that we think we want. Fame, money, success, happiness, whatever it is. And we get there to discover it's kind of empty. I know met lots of unhappy millionaires over the years. And so what comes up when I give that context to the question you've been wrestling with?
What comes up for me is what's next. I have my degrees. I have a fiance. We have a nice place we're living in. I have a nice car. I've raised my prices, and every time I raise them, there's no issue. I have a good family. I find that I finally have work-life balance. So I keep having these goals, and I guess what's next? And I don't know if it's goals. What do I shoot for next? Or do I need to shoot for anything?
Nice.
And it's really just philosophical in my mind, and that's what keeps me up at night. It's not work anymore. It's not goals. I think really, what's the purpose of life is kind of that underlying question. And I finally have time to think about that because everything is kind of in its place financially, relationship-wise, work-wise, friends-wise. So I have time to sit back and think and reflect and say, what do I really want?
That's lovely. I mean, that's a great question to sit with. I'll throw out some thoughts that I have around that and we'll see, but it's a lifetime research question, right? And so it's great that you're in it in this moment. One of the things I've seen a lot in life is this concept. You can never have enough of what you don't really need. And I usually have to say that twice because it's hard to take in. Mm-hmm. You can never have enough of what you don't really need. And so it's really worth identifying, well, what do you need? And for most of us, it's not very much, but it's usually some sense of happiness or making a contribution, making a difference, leaving a legacy, having community. I mean, there's a great article by Bronnie Ware, who worked with the dying for many years. And the article is about the 5 things that Bronnie saw that people on their deathbed say they wish they'd done more of. Like, I wish I'd spent more time with my friends. You know, nobody on their deathbed ever says, I wish I'd spent more time in the office. Mm-hmm. And so I like the legacy question. For me, 6 years ago, I sat down with my coach to say, what am I up to? What am I doing next? I know that thing about whatever I put my mind to happens. It doesn't always happen quite the way I want it to or quite the time frame, but I know if I put my attention on doing something that looks extraordinary to most people, it's going to happen. So where do I dream from here? And I came up with this idea with him in this quiet room together. I'm mobilizing $100 million to educate 1 million children. So I'm an educator. I was a teacher for the first 15 years of my career. I taught in Africa, Southeast Asia, inner city London. Education is really important to me. And this wasn't fundraising. I didn't say I'm raising the funds to make that kind of money. I'm mobilizing it. I'm doing that through my connections. I'm a connector. I know really fascinating people. That felt really exciting. I'm mobilizing $100 million to educate 1 million children. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just put that out there as something outrageous. And I didn't dare say it out loud for quite a while because it felt too scary. And then I began to say it to some of my clients. And I noticed, oh, they liked that, or it brought up energy for them. Then I began to say it out more and more. Then I made it the signature on my email. Here's what's the most fun part about that, Kyle. 2 things. One, I've got at least 2 clients right now who alone are 2 of the people I've got who are helping me to mobilize that. I've got a client right now who's raising $100 million to change the future of work. And I've got a client who's raising millions of dollars to build schools for children who think differently. So it's almost like mission accomplished already. And then last year, I was chatting to a woman I met at an event. She said, what are you up to? And so for me, a goal is a place to come from, not a place to get to. So you've got to speak your stuff out into the world. So she said, what are you up to? I said, well, you know what I'm doing? I'm mobilizing $100 million to educate 1 million children. And her response was priceless because she went, oh, that's lovely, Rich. Well, we did that last year. It was like I said, I'm going to see the movie that's out this weekend. And she went, oh, we saw it yesterday. It was just so matter of fact the way she said it. And it makes me realize that the thing that we put out there is so big and extraordinary. Someone else has done that.
Mm-hmm.
What lands for you after I share all that?
I think the legacy piece, and I've been working with another coach, and she always says, what would your 80-year-old self tell you? And I kind of think of that deathbed piece. Hopefully I live beyond 80. But when I think about that deathbed piece and my 80-year-old self, I think about that legacy. And I think about the impact. Most of my clients at Silicon Valley, senior managers, executives, and that's why I like working with them, is because through my work, I can make an impact. So if my client's reporting to Mark Zuckerberg, that was a client, is through that person, yes, I get that one person a job or help them succeed, but then they're impacting literally 1 billion users of Facebook. So I think that's what's so exciting about my work, and really recognizing that as one single person, I can have this impact on millions, if not billions of people. And I think that's exciting, and it's also scary.
I have not a map for my future, but a compass. Most people want a map. Where am I heading to? What's the goal? The problem with a map, as soon as it's drawn, it's out of date. For me, a compass is really powerful. A compass is really useful for navigating. And what you just said, the reason it reminded me of this is my compass is, if it's a little bit scary and a little bit exciting at the very same time, that's the path I have to head on. If it's too scary, I get frozen and can't take action. If it's too excited, I'm usually not very grounded. A little bit scary and a little bit exciting, that's my path.
It's helpful.
Thanks, Kyle. Hey, Aaron.
Hey, Rich.
You know what? I'm going to pause. I'm going to come to Alex first, actually, because I want to mix up the way we work today, and I know what you both wanted to speak to me about. So let me play with you, Alex. You said you want to find out who your ideal clients are. I get that. Who wouldn't want to know who are my dream clients? How do I identify them? One of the things I see that most coaches do is they identify their dream clients in terms of a demographic. I work with women in transition. I work with people who run $5 million companies who want to scale to $10 million. And that's a demographic. And usually it's not true. And by that I mean is, we work with people who scale their business from $5 to $10 million, but someone came with a $20 million company and they loved working with you and you loved who they were and you both felt you'd get value from working with one another, you change your demographic. You love working with women who are in transition, but an amazing man came along, you wouldn't care. I like to filter by psychographic. Now, psychographic is a mindset. So I'm looking for what mindsets do my ideal clients have. I've had a one-line business plan for years. Meet fun and interesting people. Those are two of the qualities in the people I love to work with. They're fun and interesting. But I have other qualities too. So in order to help you do this, I'm going to take you through a little exercise. Alex, can you think of someone you work with currently who's a dream client, a 10 out of 10, you love working with them? Does someone come to mind?
There is one. Yeah, there's one.
Okay. Are you okay giving me a first name or give me a fake first name, whichever you prefer, but give me a name so I've got someone I can talk about.
Samuel.
Samuel, okay. What do you love about Samuel the most? And as he's thinking, by the way, you guys, Aaron and Carl, you do this at the same time. And if you're listening along at home, do it too. Think of a current client or a past client who you absolutely love working with. It doesn't work for someone who I'd love to coach Beyonce, but you've never met her, you don't know anything about her personally. You can't play that game from that direction. But a current client or a past client, even if you've only coached them once, and even if you've never charged them anything for it, it doesn't matter. You know them. So tell me about Samuel. What do you love and admire about Samuel the most? And the way that Samuel thinks, his mindset, his values.
Samuel, what really made our coach, he's so open to being coached. We had this wonderful conversation, and it went from, because he has it all, right? He's got a beautiful house in La Jolla, wife, 2 kids, but he couldn't figure out why he was unhappy with all this stuff going on. So it was just the way it developed. We focused on like who he wanted to be and who he was being. And so what really drew me to him, or how we really worked so well together, is that he's making all the differences and the changes. He's slowing it down. He's enjoying life, just like taking those little steps of shutting down work and enjoying it with his family and his kids. And that's always kind of my fear is the whole life coaching thing. Sorry.
Let me keep you on this. No, I get it. I want to hear more about Samuel for a moment.
Yeah.
And quick aside for you, Kyle, one of your jobs as you think about what's next is to look for people like Samuel and ask them questions, because a lot of my clients are people who have everything they've ever wanted and discover they still feel empty on the inside. And that's what I heard a little bit what Alex was describing when he was describing Samuel just then. So what's great for you, Carl, where you are on your path is like, ask those guys, women too, like what was missing? What did you want more of? Because you can learn from their mistakes. Alex, tell me something else. What else do you love about Samuel and admire about his thinking, his mindset?
That he is so eager. He's stepped away from the corporate world. He's built his own nice little, we'll call it, he owned a hotel for a time frame, right? He sold that hotel. He's on to the next thing. So he's always creating. He's always looking, what's next. And I love that. And I love that working with him on what is next. And it's just, it's the creation. And I love that he's got that creation mindset, and he's just, the wheels are churning, and sometimes they're churning too fast, right? We got to slow that down, but they're churning and they're focused, and he's a dreamer. He wants to do big things, and he wants to do these big things, but he also wants to keep that balance. And that's one thing we've really worked on, keeping the balance with all, that circle of life, everything in the world that he has going on, just slowing it down and enjoying it all, but still pursuing the big dream, the big goals he wants to reach.
Nice. Tell me, what's the one thing that holds him back the most?
So in his head, right? Sometimes it's just too much, and it's that incessant chatter, right? And I just call it that it's time to slow it down, right? So such that big part is just that getting out of his own way. And I know it's such a super cliche thing to say, but it's so true, right? So true. I'm dealing with the same thing. And I always find that I really enjoy working with people that I see so much of myself. Where I'm like, come on, man, I see that in you. It's in me.
So you're a little bit ahead of the game here. I will come back to that, what you just noticed. What I want to look at now is what I call the dark side of the gifts. So every gift we have has a dark side. I'm a visionary thinker. As a leader, I'm always thinking about what I want to create next, what's happening in 5 years' time in the coaching industry, where are we going as a planet in 20 years. One of the problems with being a visionary thinker is I can piss off my team because they just want to work on what we're trying to do now. And I come up with a new idea for what we're going to do next. And then 3 days later, I've got a new idea for what we're going to do after that. Every gift has a dark side. What's the dark side of being so coachable?
Wow. The dark side of being so coachable. Like, I would say that that maybe you're getting so much, there's so many things fluttering in your mind, or you have a hard time pinpointing what it is, or you're easily like, this is the direction. Am I making sense here?
It doesn't have to make sense for me. If it makes sense for you, that's what counts.
Yeah. I guess you can get, I don't know. Like, is there like a dark side to being coachable? I've fully enjoyed the changes I've made through coaching.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
One of the things, one of the ways to be a great coach is to be coachable. One of the dark sides of being coachable for myself is that I'm always looking to grow more. Where else can I grow? See all the nods on this call, like we're same people, right? Where else can I be growing? What else should I do next? What else should I learn now? I never slow down and switch off and play, right, Aaron? I'm always looking where I'm learning and growing instead of, let me just breathe and smell the roses. So that land, anything like that?
Yeah. Because there's so much information out there, right? Like, just in myself, in my world, what's next for me? I get it. Yeah, it's the same. Very true.
Yeah.
Where it's sometimes you get hyper focused, laser like focus, I like to call it, right? And just kind of pushing all that other stuff away, and then because I'm the same way. Like, am I going to do yoga teacher training next? Am I going to do another workshop? All the same stuff. I love it.
Nice. So what about, he's always creating, and you love that about him. You're always asking what's next. One of the things I already heard you say is that sometimes the wheels are turning too fast. Anything more about that? The dark side of being so creative?
Yeah, you build up. It's not too different than what Aaron, right? Like, all this long project list of all these things, right? And then maybe not jumping in and taking ownership of like, oh, I'm running with this one or I'm running with that one. You just build up this whole huge repertoire of all these things you want to do. And sometimes we just need to narrow it down, right? And really focus on the real big dream, just narrow those. I call it, which project are we going to work on, right?
What's the cost of not narrowing it down?
You don't end up doing all the things you want to do, or you don't do the big things or the thing the most important, that really drive you.
Nice. Can you think of someone else other than Samuel who's been a current client or been a client in the past who you absolutely love to work with? Who else would it be?
Yeah. I've worked Emma. Emma was I really enjoyed. Was it a 10 out of 10? It was really close. That
counts. 8s, 9s, and 10s work.
Okay, good.
Tell me one thing you really loved about Emma and admired about her.
What I loved about her was her resolution, right? Like, her strong will to she gets focused. It's like we talked about, laser-like focus. She can push all the other stuff away and just run with it. I love that.
Tell me another thing that you loved about the way that she showed up in the world.
Oh, her compassion, her generosity with people. Just listening to her stories and who she is. It's really beautiful to listen to and talk to.
Tell me one more. What's one more thing you really loved and admired about her?
Well, I can tell you something that we really worked upon, because we found upon that compassion that was beautiful, that people pleasing, and we put energy into that, and you saw that shift in that transition of getting more bold, right? Like, bold with your choices, bold with your thoughts, bold with your actions, and really paying attention to the people pleasing. So it was beautiful and fun to watch that transition.
Nice. And what's the thing that's held Emma back the most in life?
People pleasing for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah.
Nice. If all of these gifts have a dark side, having a strong will, having a laser-like focus is a gift. Well, what's the dark side of that?
Mm. Hmm. It kind of comes back to that not having enough time for yourself, right? You're so compassionate and people pleasing, that you're the energies are low, you're drained, you're really you're not taking care of yourself.
Hmm. And being more bold in your choices and your thoughts and your actions, that's a gift. What's the flip side? What's the dark side of being so bold in your choices, thoughts, and actions?
Maybe being too bold, is that such a thing, or
Well,
um
I'm bold in my choices and thoughts and actions.
mhm,
Sometimes I upset people around me because
mhm.
I'm strong-minded, and sometimes I don't listen to people around me because
Yeah.
I'm strong-minded.
Yeah. I guess there's that fine line, right, where you're bold with your thoughts, your actions, your words, your voice, but you're also she brings in that compassionate side of her, that listening,
So,
that
so, so
care.
stay with this question. What's
Yeah.
the dark side of when she can be bold with her choices, thoughts, and actions? Where is there a cost for her in doing that?
Mm. Probably deep down, her making decisions for herself and taking time away from the family, or just giving up some of her time to rejuvenate her energy, giving less, she that daunts on her for sure.
Hmm. So she's giving too much time to others and not enough for herself where she
Yeah.
needs to. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Aaron, you know anyone like that? Just,
I
just,
do.
a, just a thought. So let's play a game, Alex. If I get off this call and someone says to me, well, tell me about Alex. I'm looking for a coach. Who does Alex work with? I would lead with something like this. Well, and you see if you know anyone like this, Alex, as I'm describing this client to you, see if this person sounds familiar. Well, Alex's clients are really coachable. They're really open to learning and growing. They've probably got most of the things they've ever wanted in life, but somehow they still feel a bit unhappy on the inside. And I'm guessing they maybe even feel a little bit guilty about that. They enjoy life. They've got this creative mindset, and they are always creating. They're always asking, what's next? They're dreamers. They want to do big things. And they want balance too. They have strong will and a laser-like focus, and they're known for their compassion and their generosity. They make bold choices. They have bold thoughts and take bold action. And at the very same time, they're held back by a sense of trying to please the people around them. It's been a pattern for a long time. Sometimes it still shows up. And they can get in their head with this incessant chatter. And whilst they're so open to being coached, the dark side of that is they're always asking, what's next? It never stops. It's incessant. The wheels are sometimes turning so fast that instead of focusing, they don't put their attention on the things that are most important. And there's a cost for that. They don't give enough time for themselves. Their energy can be low and they can be drained. And they give up their time to others instead of taking time to rejuvenate. Do you know anyone like this, Alex?
For sure. God, you're so good at that.
Hmm.
I do. Yeah. It's very similar to a lot of myself, and I think that's
I
always
mean,
kind of
that's
point.
the thing that hits every time I do this
Yeah,
exercise. People go, oh my God, that's me.
yeah.
And because it is you, it's your dream client is the person who looks back at you in the mirror every night. And this is the gift about doing this exercise, particularly the dark side of their gifts. When you can speak out loud the things that most people don't know about themselves, they are really curious to know more. See, I know that many of my dream clients are acknowledge for all the amazing things they do in the world. But on the inside, they secretly feel lazy. They feel like, I'm not really doing very much to make these amazing things happen. They feel kind of guilty that they're getting these acknowledgements. Those are my people. And I'm able to say to them, by the way, oh, my mission for you is to have you feel more lazy as time goes on. It's not laziness. It's not like lying on the couch watching TV and not working. It's you in your zone of genius. So I've seen things about my people by diving into this, because I've looked at myself and what holds me back, what drives me. So when you speak this into the world, Alex, if you wrote down everything I just described and put that on your website, your people would go, oh my God, that's me.
The dark side is so powerful and such a beautiful, like in a coaching conversation, it's amazing to use that resource. I love it. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks. Same for you, Kyle. Same for you, Aaron. You know, I don't know if you did that just now, but it really speaks to who you're looking for. It's the person who looks back at you in the mirror every night. And I played with you a little bit, Aaron, along the way, because you said at the beginning of this next piece of the conversation, you want to play more. You've been so serious in your life, or you've been fear-driven. It's time for more play, which speaks to where Kyle came in and his philosophical look at where does he want to go in his life. And it speaks to Alex and the kind of dream people he works with. By the way, there's no surprise that you all have a version of that going on. Guess why? Because that's who I am. And the reason that you're here or drawn to anything that I'm doing is because I put out into the world my doubts, fears, insecurities, joys, loves, desires. And you went, oh yeah, I want to know more. I want to speak more. How's that land, Aaron?
That lands.
Yeah. So what I've got for you is really simple, actually. It's like the bracelet that some Christians wear, WWJD, what would Jesus do? It makes life really simple. They don't have to go to the Bible. They don't have to ask their priest. They look at their bracelet and it says WWJD and they know, oh, let me think what Jesus would do. I'll take that action. Yours is something like WWPD. What would play do? How can I be more playful? Maybe that's the question. How can I be more playful? Mm-hmm. If every night for the next 90 days, there was a piece of paper by your bed, and at the top of that piece of paper, it said, how was I playful today? And before you went to bed, you wrote one sentence that captured how you were playful that day. You might have 5, 6, 7 days in a row where I wasn't playful. But if you ask that question every day for 90 days, and you answer it every day for 90 days, you're going to find that you're creating a life where there's more play.
Cool. I'll take that on.
I'll give you one last fun one, because I was looking at this a few years ago for myself. I wanted to bring a sense of play into what I do. So I looked at, well, who's an example of my kind of fears around that and insecurities around play? And I came up with the idea of Austin Powers. You know, Austin Powers for me was kind of horrific because he's this British guy with bad teeth who thinks he's good with women. And it was like, oh my God, if anyone thought of me that way, he's like anathema to me, which means there's juice in it. There's something interesting in there. So I put a picture of him on my desktop of my computer. And for an entire year, in every coaching session, I would say to myself, what would Austin Powers say? What would Austin Powers do? And I began to bring in this, I used to be this very serious coach. And I brought in a sense of play and fun and laughter. And I don't have Austin Powers on my screen anymore, but it's opened me up and given me range that I didn't have back then. And the more range you have, the more power you have.
Yeah, I love that. I remember originally doing training, we went through an exercise like that, and I had to beat this like arrogant, dumb jock type, and it was so uncomfortable to just be like, yeah, like it doesn't matter, you know. And but I totally forgot about that, and yeah, that sounds fun. I don't know who my Austin Powers is, but I like it.
When you described that dumb jock, I thought of Biff from Back to the Future. but you'll find your character, right? But play with it. If you're going to have play as your word, then find a character and play with being him for a while. It will the fears will turn into that character. You won't. It will give you range.
Right.
And you've created an amazing life in a range like this. And so same for each of you. Expanding your range gives you so much power and impact. And that's when you get to make a difference. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Kyle, insight or a question before we complete?
I think that makes a lot of sense, the ideal client. I think why I'm so attracted to people in Silicon Valley is because there's this hustle mentality. And a lot of the executives I work with, they're making a few million a year, yet they're working 80 or 100 hours a week. And that's what I used to do. I was working all these hours. I made good money, but there was something that was missing. And I think that's why they tend to seek me out, is because they see that I have this balance. I'm still working on it, but I have that balance. And I think that's why I tend to attract these executives who feel like they have almost everything and there's just something still missing.
Yeah.
And then they find whatever that missing thing is, and then there's something more and more. So I think that's the dark side, is that perfectionism, which stands in the way of progress, of being present, of being calm. So I think this makes sense. I actually listened to you do this activity before with the client, but it didn't 100% stick. So hearing it again makes a lot of sense. And I think I finally understand the why of me working with these super, super high-performing executives.
Yeah, it's you. It's you. Mm-hmm. And they need you. They need you. I've got a friend who's in his 70s who I was just chatting to, and he said, you know, how I describe my clients, they're unhappy millionaires. Now, he doesn't want many clients anymore. He has a handful of clients. He just works with unhappy millionaires. I mean, that's what you're talking about. It doesn't mean they're old necessarily. There's youngsters in Silicon Valley who've got everything they ever wanted really fast, and something is missing, and they feel it. And it's a quality problem. You can't really go out in the world and talk about that problem to most people. They'll trust you because you get that, and you get them.
Exactly.
Nice. Cool. I can't wait to hear about these clients you get to work with. Unlike you, I have two words that are really important to me: impact and leverage. I want to make an impact in the world. And I haven't been interested to go wide, to have millions of followers on Instagram. That's not the game I play. I want to go deep. I love to work with a handful of people who are making a massive impact in the world. That really excites me, because then, just like you, I get to have an impact on millions. And I get to do it from my home, where I can go and play with my kids when they come home from school.
I'm the exact same way. I think that's what's so exciting.
Nice. Love it. Thanks, Carl. Alex, you got a takeaway, a word or an insight to complete today?
Sure. Can I get like an awesome power, yeah, baby? Or what would you do anything fun, like playful like that with your clients?
Oh, don't put me on the spot. Now you're getting me to the edge of my range. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, I love it. No, I love when you do that exercise. I've listened to it once before, and I love that it was focused on me, and it just brings a lot of clarity, and it's like, you know, you're looking at it in the mirror every morning, but it's just so fun to put it to words and to hear it into fruition. I dig. So. Yeah,
and we can't really do it for ourselves. It's even though you could hear me doing that with other people, the power of me doing that with you, it lands, because it's actually hard to do. I can't do it for myself. It's hard. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Aaron, if you're going to play with us for a few seconds before we complete, how would you play?
Let's do like a little happy dance over here.
Nice.
My happy dance.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I get that was edgy for you, and that the serious man who is driven, it's like, that's not how he shows up, and you're still here, you're still alive,
I am.
and it lean into that edge. I love that the power went down, or at least I love that there was a reason that we had to separate for a week and then come back after some reflection. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful way to end this podcast episode.
Yeah, thank you. That was fun. I like too having the break. It was nice to be able to reflect, think about it. I raised my prices. Actually, I want to tell you too, I raised my prices and closed clients. I just doubled my coaching prices. I was like, let's double it. I closed people. I used your script too. I have your book out. I like literally had the book open. So it was exciting too, because I've never had a problem closing clients, but I still had this fear inside. At this new price point. And I was like, let me just go for it. Why not? No one's looking that close where I can always change them again. So it was exciting. Like it came at good timing.
I love it because I could have done that work with you just now at the start of this second conversation. I just had an instinct, oh, you've got this one. You do get, and it's just a game. That's the funny thing. You know why I charge $100,000 for people to work with me? Because I made that number up. Yeah. You know why I don't yet charge 300,000 people to work with me? Because I haven't yet been bold enough to say that number. And it's just a game. And the right people show up. Look, if you don't back it up with being great at what you do, they won't stay very long. But you can, and you do. So one of my favorite activities when I meet someone who's got a solid track record, or I get that they know how to play this, is to get them to double their prices. And when they come back to me with a sense of surprise within a few days and go, oh my God, people are paying. Like, I give them this second high-level challenge. I say, double them again. And it blows their mind for a second because they thought that was the challenge. But the number of times over the years that I've done this, and people have come back and said, oh my God, and it's now they're charging 4 times the price. Yeah. And of course, at that level, you don't need so many clients. So you can get more no's. In fact, your job is to collect no's. So thanks for sharing that, Kyle. I'm going to make sure we keep this little piece of the conversation in the podcast. This is great. It's lovely to hear.
It's exciting. I started at $5, literally on Fiverr. I charge $5 for resume reviews, LinkedIn reviews, giving people feedback. And it's now 100 times that. So it's pretty crazy to see just doubling, tripling, quadrupling that, to see it go like that. So it's so cool. I wish I would have got this sooner, but it's perfect.
It is. Look, my first coaching fee was $10 a month, and I coached 4 times a month for that. So I made $2.50 an hour. You know, that's where my professional self-esteem was at that moment. I didn't know how to ask for what I want. I was excited about that. Genuinely, I was like, wow, someone's paying me because I just sit down and talk to them. It was amazing to me. And then I learned I can ask for different numbers. And I do a lot of work to create a lot of value for people I don't charge anything for. You can listen to this podcast. You can read my book for a few dollars. There's also things you can do where I put a YouTube channel where I share stuff. And for a handful of people who are my people who want to play the kind of game I love to play, an exponential game, there's a number that some of them want to pay. Just a game. Thank you, guys. Thank you for playing. Thank you for trusting me. I can't wait to hear what comes next.
Thank you, Rich. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Rich. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching. It was called leadership. And it's what I love to do, to coach people, to lead people, and to mess with people's thinking. If you'd like more of this, or if you'd like to learn more about our community of extraordinary top performers, go to richlitvin.com/oneinsight.